You're listening to the 4-Phase Cycle Podcast with your hosts, Dr. Alex and Megan of Zesty Ginger. If you're looking to naturally balance hormones and learn how to work with your body instead of against it, you've definitely come to the right place. As a duo of an integrative MD and a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and best friends, we use the 4 phases of the female cycle in combination with functional lab work and mindset practices to transform the lives of the women we work with.
We also have a whole lot of fun along the way. If you're new around here, it's best to start with season 1 before jumping around and plan to roll up your sleeves. Showing up for ourselves and enjoying our lives is what good health is all about. Just a quick reminder though, this information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making changes.
Why, hello there. This is Megan again, back with my series, my solo cast series. I started off this series with why herpes sucks. Wasn't that the episode? Headed into infidelity. If you did not yet listen to those, this is a series that goes together that might not make as much sense if you don't go back and listen from the beginning. So go check that out. We're about 5 episodes in. And here I am today. I am going to take you on and talk about the first in-person transformation event that my husband and I went to together. So this was a turning point for us. This was when we began to be able to speak the same language, when we could joke about our habits together. We could call each other out in a loving way. We had a way of talking. We had examples. We could break our patterns we'd been doing for years, and we were on the same page about it. We were doing this together. And it also sparked something huge inside of me that wanted to learn the behind the scenes of how to coach in a way that I always had just like the perfect question or the metaphor or the reframe for someone to just like break open the model of the world they're in, break open to something new, to something amazing. Because I consider myself a mindset ninja. It's my favorite part of health. And it's the part that often we don't want to do. Often people are like, nope, I'm good there. Don't want to talk about it. So finding how to ask hard questions and also how to find the perfect task. So the perfect thing for someone to go out and do in the real world to secure that new identity, because sometimes you've uncovered something and then you're like, now what? So this also ignited my desire to hold our own in-person training. So the amount of transformation that I get in a 5 to 7 day event. In my last episode, I told all about the week-long event that I went to for neurofeedback. So that was one kind of event. So it was very going inward and being in a meditative state. And there's been other things, right? So this has taken me, when I go to an event like this, it is like in 5 to 7 days, I'm getting what I usually get in years, honestly, of reading or therapy or even coaching, all things I love. And there's something about that breakthrough that happens in a very specific container and having that time where you're actually separate from your life, that time where you're putting the focus on you and humans, lots of other humans. So that was the difference in this event. It was a large event, plenty of people to mirror back to you, plenty of people to irritate the heck out of you, sitting right next to you. Not only did I realize I wanted to host events, I realized, and Dr. Alex and I realized together, we really wanted to train practitioners to do what we do and do it in a week-long event. And we want them all to have the tools, and you all to have the tools for personal transformation. And if you have clients or you're in a business, also to have those tools for your clients, right? And in just a couple years later, it's so cool. And it's fun to recap because this has been over the last 4 years, just a few years later. And we do now have a practitioner training, and I became certified trainer of NLP. And Alex and I hosted our first ever event in May. at the time of this recording. And we have another one planned in October of 2022 and another one in May of 2023. So if you have any interest, if this is just sparking your interest at all, you do not have to be a practitioner. You don't have to be a coach. You do not even have to be in business. You can use this personally. And we also have, this can be used in any area of business and in life. This is about interacting with humans. This is about understanding our subconscious programming. This is about language, which applies to everybody. So feel free to reach out to us, support@zestyginger.com, or we do have a wait list where we will be sending any updates at zestyginger.com/practitioner. We'll put that in the show notes. So although attending this event this time was really about struggling to get my relationship back together, and that was why I went, although it led to so much more. And do you know yet what that event was? You may have guessed, and you may have remembered if you've been around and seen the social media from Zesty Ginger for a while, but this was Date with Destiny with Tony Robbins. Well, we started with UPW, Unleash the Power Within, although today I really want to focus on Date with Destiny and my takeaways from that. Because whether you love him or you hate him, I still think you will get something out of my personal takeaways from this event. I remember after I went, sharing a couple very small pieces of what I'll share today, a few small ahas that I have that people were responding on social media like, oh my gosh, I am like really realizing what's happening in my relationship, and I cannot believe I have the exact same patterns as you, and I did the same thing. So that is my goal here in sharing this series, is not just to tell stories. I love stories, and it is how people have said they learn best from me, and it is how they hear their story and mine. It is how they start to realize it's okay to have problems. It's okay to be open, to be vulnerable, to share things that have happened to you, to share that you have struggles in your relationship. We are all living the human experience. If there's anybody here who doesn't have anything they've gone through, then, just keep living, right? Like, it happens. It's a part of it. And I think, and I know that when I hear other people share the truth of like how they actually felt or how much of a struggle it was, because this was a struggle, y'all. Like, my husband and I, to where we are now, is amazing. And it was not always there at all. So this was a part of the process. And here we are. My husband was in the military for 24 years, and now he is opening up for the first time to all of this. So for us, going to a Tony Robbins event was a perfect segue. Tony Robbins is a very large man, masculine, and he swears and he speaks in a way that really resonated with my military husband at the time. And it allowed him to open up because there was also the soft side and there were also the learnings. And it brought us into a place where we could be together and we could learn together. So I have my top 3 takeaways I'd love to share with you today from Date with Destiny. This is a 6-day event in Florida. And this was right at the end of 2019. So this was right before the world shut down and we couldn't go places anymore. And one of my takeaways was I can do uncomfortable things. So I got super sick. I'm not sure what it was, although I was super sick. And I would struggle through the whole night. I would basically relive and replay the event all day long, all night long. So I really got double my money's worth, and I was miserable. I don't know for sure a lot of people who leave these kind of events. Dr. Joe Dispenza calls it the Dispenza flu. There's different things that are happening as you're shifting subconscious. And I don't know, I felt miserable. So I had a belief, and you'd heard this a little bit in my last episode where I talked about going to neurofeedback training. There was this whole thing of like, okay, I've spent so much time really fine-tuning, like, this is how much sleep I need, and this is what's good for me, and this is what I do with my cycle, and this is what phase I'm in, and women really need things differently, and really just getting down to what optimizing and what works for me. And in the process, which is awesome, and in the process I had come up with a lot of beliefs of like certain things aren't good for your health. So I was like, wait a minute, the setup of this event is like, this is ridiculous. Like, we were there till 4 a.m. one night. Like, what? And it's 6 days in a row like that. I don't think I ever left before 2 a.m. I was like literally so tapped out that like at midnight I was lying on a bench and some of the staff came to get me and was like, hey, miss, is there someone who can help you? I'm like, yeah, can you go find my husband? He's the one in the onesie. Yes, he wore a Christmas onesie one of the days. So it was easy to find him, which was really helpful. So I have had this belief. I was like, this isn't good for your health. This is not normal. This is not human. Oh, and he's a man, right? And he doesn't have a female cycle, and he's not considering my needs and how things should be, and all these stories of like how much I could handle and how it needed to be so that I would be okay, and how like if this wasn't good for your health, then why would it be set up this? All this stuff was coming up, and at the same time I was really committed to the process, and I was really committed to playing full out and going to everything. So I was having this little internal struggle of like, but it shouldn't be scheduled this way, and there's no breaks, there's no meal breaks. He literally doesn't take breaks. It's just not a human. I don't really think he is. Doesn't take breaks. I mean, of course, you can take a break, and I did, and I would go eat. It's just there was all this stuff around how the schedule is, and you never really know what the schedule is. There's a lot of uncertainty. And yes, these things are all on purpose, which I figured out way later when I started to understand the science behind it and why it is that way. And it was just all this stuff coming up about how it had to be. And my belief was like, I will get sick. And funny thing, I did. Really? That's interesting. I had a belief I will get sick if I don't have regular sleep and eat on time and all that. And I did. And so what I realized, my takeaway was that I actually, because I pushed through and I still did all of it and I still experienced the whole thing, and I was able to, and I had huge breakthroughs. Like I changed as a person, and I felt that, and I made connections, the most amazing connections. My buddy I still talk to today. And I realized like I actually can do uncomfortable things. Now, what I also realized is that is not how I want to live on the regular. So I can have a standard of how long I want to sleep, how well I want to eat, that I want filtered water, that I like to sleep in a room that does not have air fresheners, right? I can have the standards, and I can also know that when it happens, when I'm in a place where I don't have those, I'll be okay. Not just okay, I'll be great, right? So there was this learning of like, okay, all these things I thought I needed, I now no longer need, because I had worked on the resiliency of my health. I no longer need it to be just the way it is, right? Like I can eat at a restaurant and have whatever and be totally fine. So that was really cool. It was really cool to me to see that day after day after day after day, I could push through and do this. And again, if you're listening and you're like, that's not healthy for you, that wasn't good, see, you got sick, then you're in the same boat as me. It was actually internally inside of me, I felt incredibly empowered, and I'm glad that the schedule is crazy like that, because you come out of it and you're like, well, I could do that. I can push through this little thing that's happening at home, right? I can push through the fact that, the schedule changed a little bit and I have to stay up later. So there's just so much power in knowing that things do not have to be perfectly the way I want them for me to be healthy. Okay. The second huge thing that happened, and I don't know, we got some learnings from it, we'll say, it was brought to our awareness, my husband and I. There was a whole day that was a relationship day, and during this day, we're sitting separately because they put you in teams, and so my husband's on one team and I'm on another, and we're separate like this, and it's relationship day. And of course I'm always kind of looking around like, oh, is he listening, and what's going on, and how's he doing, right? Just checking in. And there was so much like baggage and fear between my husband and I that in one of the parts of the process, Tony Robbins asked us all to, visualize these 3 different times in our life where, we felt totally loved and total joy with our partner. And there was 3 different scenarios. And what I ended up finding out later is that my husband and I were both having a really, really, really hard time coming up with anything. Neither of us could think of anything good. And here we are, 14 years into our relationship. So that sucked. That's not a cool realization. And when I went during this process, there was a part where we were talking about Ho'oponopono. For those of you who don't know, it's kind of a like forgiveness practice, Hawaiian forgiveness practice. And I just had this urge. I was like, I need to go to Nate right now. And my buddy's like, yes. Something that was said, I was like, I need to go to him. And I took the action to go to him, because often what I do would wait and be like, it's not safe, right? It's not safe to have those feelings. That's why I couldn't visualize it or see it. If I do, it will go away. Good things don't last. There was all these fears around this, and I can't put myself out there. Like, you better come to me. So I decided to break the pattern in that moment, and I went to him. And I actually have on my wall right here, which y'all can't see, is an amazing photo that my husband's buddy took of us doing Ho'oponopono face-to-face in the middle of the event when I had come to him. It was a huge process for us. And it was, for me, it was really important that I set aside my ego and my need to be right and my need to wait, and went to him. And we realized, I saw on his face at first, like he was not having a good time. And he later told me he was having the same situation where he couldn't visualize anything good. And we have since worked through this in a way that we realized that there was just so much fear around, if you think of the good things and if you hold on to the good things, then what if they don't last? And so therefore, we were not visualizing anything good. We were not able to pull up anything good. And what do you think we were creating? Not much good, right? So that was not fun in the moment, and brought us to really start to look at why we couldn't see the good in our past. All right, the third lesson was all about the masculine and the feminine. And I hadn't really thought all that much about this at this point, although I realized as we were talking about it that at one point in my life, there can be a moment in your life where all of a sudden things change. And I had decided that it was unsafe. So it was unsafe to rely on anybody else. And this happened while I was pregnant. I think, there's this feeling you have of, and all the hormones and all the things of like protecting the baby and being the mom. And there was just a small incident in which I did not feel safe or protected. And I decided in that moment, I will always be able to support myself, and I won't need anybody else, including Nate. I will make all the decisions. I will have my own income. I will have my own plans. I will do whatever I want and need to do. I will be me, and baby are first, and everybody else comes after. And in a way, this sounds kind of empowering. Like, all right, you're doing what you need. You're like, doing what your child needs. And at the same time, I, in this moment, went into the masculine. Right? So I took on the full masculine energy, which was to be in charge and to take control and to have that structure and the container, right? Think of masculine energy as a little more the container. And it can be competition. It can be more like the rational, logical, mental, linear. It's like pursuit of certainty, the planning, the control. Whereas the feminine will be more about cooperation and intuition. It's non-linear. There's just this beautiful like conversation and interdependence and synchronicity, right? And so the balance between the two is really important. And I heard something at this event that made me realize what had happened with my husband and I, because Tony said something along the lines of, in a relationship, you need to have polarity, meaning one of the people, and it doesn't matter if you're a male or female, but there needs to be masculine energy and feminine energy. And that when they're opposite like that, that is when you have the polarity, and that is when you will have the attraction. And in this moment, I stayed after I kind of went into the, like, I will always protect myself. I stayed there for probably, 8 or so years, and I stayed in my masculine, and I was not going to let anybody in, and I was going to be in charge. And that was cool, except I had no connection. There was no spark between us, there was no ability to really feel that because I was staying in my masculine, and so was he. And so I realized that in order for us to be able to really get in a place where we were working together and feeling that again, as we both wanted to deeply feel, is how would I figure out that it's safe to be in my feminine? What would this look like? And how, like, what does that even mean? Not that I probably still don't even know. This is totally a work in progress. So how do you even embody the feminine? Definitely not my area of expertise. So I'm just going to share, like, honestly, just this small thing I learned, that like when I went to my masculine, that's why we lost the polarity, just to me was like, oh gosh, this is exactly what happens. And luckily for me, my partner has been willing to learn alongside all along. And I haven't had to be alone for the ride, and he's been ready and willing to implement things. So there was a book, and I still haven't read the whole thing. Well, it's a book written by a man for men. It's called The Masculine in Relationship by C.S. Youngblood. And it talks about how often women live in the masculine to get things done, and that can be cool, and you can do that, and although it may not be their natural state. And so they can live in this mode for a while, but many occasionally will really crave to return to that natural feminine energy, even if it's only temporarily. If it's too long in the masculine, you may start to be irritable, bossy, critical, uninterested in sex. So yes, I was all of those. And reading this book, it actually suggested there were 3 things for the masculine energy to help me back into my feminine. Of course, I can't control the people around you. I can only work on my side of the street. Although having this like understanding, and for my husband being open to learning and reading this book, it was number 1, stay strong in the face of my powerful emotions. And that's been one of the biggest things for me, is as he has done his inner healing and work, he is much more able to just sit with me when I'm in my stuff and not try to fix it, and not be like, what did I do? And not jump to the defensive. And really, literally, I mean, he did it a couple nights ago. He just sat there and he held my feet. I was like, I don't need anything other than to feel that it is okay to feel my feelings, because sometimes I don't even know why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. And I'm just all in the feminine, up and down, and who knows where I am in my cycle. I do know. But that it doesn't even matter. And I didn't want to have a reason why I had the feeling. And it is so enlightening and empowering to be able to have an emotion, cry my eyes out, feel sad, feel angry, whatever it is, and just have him be there. So that was number 1. Number 2 was to step up and take charge once in a while, which again sounds like, yeah, but I can do it. Cool. And when he does step up and take charge, which is plenty of the time, I do have that sense of like, you're the container. I'm here. I'm protected, which is number 3, make me feel safe. Yeah, nobody can make you do anything. It's allowing a process and creating a container, communication of like, what do you need to feel safe? So over this time, I have even found, so not just Nate, but for Alex, Dr. Alex is totally able to just sit with me through my emotions. And we had this happen in Dallas where my body went crazy on one of the nights, and I was really having just like a trauma response and old energy and all this stuff coming through. And she was able to just sit there and hold the space. So it doesn't have to be a romantic partner. It can just be anyone who's willing to sit there with you. And as she's done the work, Dr. Alex has done the major work of being okay with her own emotions and reparenting her inner child. She is totally able to just sit there with mine. Have you felt that? Have you had someone who can just sit there with it with you? It is powerful. And now we do this for our clients. And now we teach practitioners to do this with theirs, because once you work through your stuff, and there's tools that allow you to continually work through your stuff, then you are able to show up more for your clients. As our members of our group attendees of our training are kind of in their stuff at certain points, because the training is meant to really help you get through anything and see what's blocking you and see and open up these struggles. And as people were going through different stuff and they're, speaking out a little bit, acting out a little bit, and then they're apologizing to us, and we're like, don't apologize to us. We can handle this. We're okay with you having a meltdown. We can sit right here and have you tell us that you're mad at us, and that's okay, because this is part of the process, and we're doing our inner work so that we can be here, totally here with you, and not feel, what does this mean about me? Be here with you. Hold that space for you. Super cool, especially powerful if you have children. And I now have had a couple things happen in the last few weeks where I was able to really, really sit with my daughter when she had something happen and have zero thoughts of, what does this mean about me as a parent? What are the other people thinking? And if you're a parent and you can resonate with this, I have always jumped to that of like, oh my gosh, instead of being able to be with her and her emotions, I would be thinking, oh gosh, if she just hadn't said that, they wouldn't have even known. Or what are the other parents thinking that she had this situation? Or, oh, did I fail because she's feeling this? And no, it was not about me, right? And I was able to sit with her. So hopefully some of this hit home for you. Again, if you are enjoying the series, if you've learned anything from the series, if you know anybody who would benefit from the series, please share, please like it, please post it on your Instagram stories, please leave us a review, any and all the things, they all help. It's like a little tip in our jar. And we're going to keep going in the process, and I am going to keep unfolding the journey as it went so that hopefully you won't have to go through all of it, and you can remember and go, oh yeah, oh yeah, maybe I can jump right to this one instead of going through the bottom that it took Megan or Dr. Alex to get there. It has been a pleasure being here with you, and I will talk to you in the next episode.
Thanks for coming out to hang with us on the podcast. It is our goal to transform the way women are treated in healthcare. And we need your help. We need your help to get the word out. We have a lofty goal of 1 million downloads. And we know that as this podcast grows, we're going to be able to reach more women, get more amazing speakers for you, and bring the most cutting-edge information.
If you found these podclasses helpful, please take a moment to text 5 women you know the link to the series. We appreciate your help so much. Can't wait to see you next time.